Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Purpose Partner Path podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Gladney, your purpose partner, walking alongside women who find themselves at life's crossroads, helping them rediscover who they are, become unshakable, and lead and live with strategic grace. Today's episode is especially meaningful because we are continuing to celebrate Women's History Month, a time set aside to honor the legacy, leadership, and lasting impact of women who have shaped our communities, our institutions, and our future. This month's national theme is Leading the Change and Shaping a Sustainable Future, and my guest today embodies that theme so beautifully. So, you know what we do about right now, so go grab your cup of tea and let's get started.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the purpose. Partner,
Joining me is Jamecca Marshall, Executive Director of the Los Angeles STEM Collective, a woman whose leadership spans public policy, education, social justice, and community transformation. Jamecca, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Coach Wendy. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here.
I am so glad to have you. I really have been looking forward to this interview, so thank you so much. So before we dive into your impressive resume, and it is impressive, I always like to begin by asking this question. So Jamecca, who are you at your core, and what truly fuels the work that you do day to day?
Well, I am a coalition builder. I am a justice defender. I am a student of history, a lover of Los Angeles, a sister, and a mom. And all of those things really fuel the work that I do. I graduated college thinking I was going to be a political writer. And I took a job at the age of 22 as an AmeriCorps volunteer in Washington, D.C. for a family resource center. And I have been working in nonprofits ever since. Got bit by that bug. Now I lead an organization called, like as you mentioned, the Los Angeles STEM Collective. It's a science, tech, engineering, math, education collaborative of about 150 organizations right here in Los Angeles.
Wow, wow. That is so powerful. And I love that you kind of shared more about your purpose in the beginning and not just the positions that you've held. You talked about really about your powerful engagement with community, and I love that. Often people know what we do, but not why we do it. And your academic journey alone tells us a story. I can't believe it. You are a graduate of Stanford, George Washington University, with concentrations in American public policy, race, ethnicity, history, and social welfare. That is a mouthful. I went to UCLA and I just have a degree in poli-sci. And so after reading all of this about you, I'm like, oh my gosh, she is a dynamo. So tell me, how do those different aspects intersect to shape your world and the leader that you are today?
Well, it's a lot. My education is a lot like poli-sci. So as a young girl growing up, I grew up between Mississippi and Los Angeles, and I was really fascinated by American history because my mother's family was from Los Angeles and my dad's family was from Mississippi, and they were just so absolutely different,
I can
yet
imagine.
so similar. Yeah, but so similar in so many
Yeah.
ways, right? As just,
Yes.
Black families are. And so
Yeah.
I started to learn about the Great Migration, and I started to learn about wanting to learn more about our history, Jim Crow laws, and the Civil War, and the Atlantic slave trade. And I started to realize in my education, really everything, all of colonial America, the United States, Western history was really born out of that history, out of our history, Black history.
So true.
And every law, every policy, every cultural practice that we have is really, Black history. And
Mhm.
so to be an expert in social welfare policy, which is what I've always wanted to do and what I am doing now, to me meant learning Black history. Education policy, public health, law enforcement, housing, even transportation policy, all is kind of fed through this racialized history of the
Yes.
United States. So if we want to build something new and better
Hmm.
and something that works for all of us, we really have to be an expert in that history. And so that's why I got a degree at Stanford in poli-sci and specialized in race and ethnicity. But when I got my degree at George Washington in history, in public policy, I got a dual degree, two masters at the same time, because I felt like it was so important to make sure if I'm going to come in and say I want to do something about policy, I need to make sure I know and really understand the history. And that's guided me and led me, so well.
Wow. It's interesting you say that. I actually was speaking to a group last night, and one of the concepts that came up was we were just talking about preparation and being prepared for the different aspects and avenues that we say that we want to go into, whether it's politics or whether it's, in corporate America or whatever it is. But are you really prepared for it? And that's what you're sharing with us, is that you knew, especially for us as Black women, making sure that our voices are heard, that we walk into the room prepared. So I appreciate so much that, you, even though you have all these degrees and you talk about education, but you also talked a little bit about, I'll call it discernment, that you're making sure that you understood how things come together. So let me ask you this: during
Yeah.
those years of study, especially in spaces where conversations around race and equity can be both challenging and emotionally demanding, what helped you stay grounded and confident in your work?
That's a really good question. And I don't know that I did all the time. To be honest with you, Wendy, I mentor young college students now, and I tell my mentees, I had to fake it till I made it kind of plenty back in those times, because I don't think anyone is always confident, especially coming into different spaces.
Yep.
But one thing that's really helped me is a quote that I heard from Maya Angelou, and I won't quote it because I don't know it exactly, but it reminded me of something my grandmother used to say all the time. And I tell my mentees this: whenever you walk into a room or a new situation and you don't feel confident, you don't feel that, and you may feel like people say, imposter syndrome and all of that stuff, think about all of the people that you bring into that room with you. You bring all of your ancestors, you bring all of the people that love you, all the people who've prayed over you, laid hands on you, and all of the people who care about you. And they want to see you succeed, and they believe in you, and they
Yes.
believe that you're deserving. And you make them proud by living up to your best self. Even if you're not fully confident as they are in that moment, you make them proud by living up to your best self. So that's all we can do at any time. And so when I have those moments where I'm not feeling as confident in those spaces,
Hmm.
that is what I do. But for the most part, I tell folks, it's not all of that intimidating, because we are often taught, you have to be better, more prepared, more ready, because you are different, and that's anybody who's different understands this concept. You have to be kind of more, so you go in, really more prepared and more ready than most of the people who come in and who aren't kind of psychologically carrying any of those burdens. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to be fine and you're going to be excellent. And I was, but in those occasions, really, really think about all of the work and all of the people and all of the love that brought you to the space that you are, and really stand in that.
Hmm. It's interesting because, again, I read a lot of different types of things. If you see behind me, you see all kind of books and stuff all the time. And I was reading something where they were talking about someone who goes and speaks before thousands of people on a regular basis. And they said, "Don't you ever get intimidated or scared?" And it was a guy, and he said, "Actually, I used to, but now I take it off of me. I don't even think about, oh, they're looking at me or what I have to do. I think about what I was put on this earth to give to them. So whoever's out there. And so that takes a lot of the pressure off us, like you said, imposter syndrome or, just anything. And I also know that when we are prepared, because like you said, a lot of times we're over prepared, but when we are prepared, It just gives us that extra umph of confidence and grounds us so that we know that we can walk in. So, I do believe that grounding is so important, especially for women who are often carrying more than one responsibility at a time. And that would be all of us, because most of it, like you already mentioned, you're a mother, you're a sister, you are a business leader, you are a community leader, all these different things. And so we carry so much. I know myself, I'm also a caregiver for my aunt that I call my mom. I also, help my children and grandchildren and still lead a business and so forth. So one of the pillars of the Purpose Partner path is all about understanding crossroads. And crossroads mean those moments when we are called to choose growth, courage, and sometimes even uncertainty. So let me ask you, was there a season in your leadership journey where you found yourself at a crossroad where you had to make a decision and that stretched you or changed the direction or the trajectory of your work?
Yes, many, 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 many times. And um, so over my career, I've been in spaces where, I've been the only woman or the only black person or the only black woman in the space. Um, as a Stanford, George Washington, Georgetown alumnus, uh, that's not like surprising, but there's something different about being that only when you're in the role of leadership. And you have to kind of navigate that feeling of being, different or, having, just like you were kind of saying, all of this on your shoulders, right? Psychologically and emotionally. Like, even if you've been to therapy and you've unpacked or whatever, just walking into a space where you're kind of representative of, so much more than you are. Every challenge, every disagreement, every, pushback or, issues around trust looms larger
Yes.
when you're in those types of situations. And so I think that I've had a lot of moments as a leader where I've really had to navigate that,
Mm-hmm.
and it has helped me and really hone for me what kind of my purpose is and what is my role in actualizing the work. So I'll give you an example. If I'm in a situation and I'm balancing all the things a leader must balance,
Yes.
my staff concerns and making sure I have a welcoming space, and I'm, sharing leadership and I'm encouraging growth, and I'm also
Mm-hmm.
being mindful of like external factors and budgets and like all of these things. I'm juggling all of these things. But at the end of the conversation, the questions, because of the space that you're in or the authority that this person has,
Mm-hmm.
they're just unrelenting. They continue to keep going. I have as many times been able to just say, well, in this situation, I am God. As a leader, I am God, and so I'm enforcing kind of what I think and what I believe, because it comes down to values, and it comes
Mm-hmm.
down to what your integrity and what you care about.
Right.
And when you are in a situation and this is always my trigger, to build something different than the pathway that you had to take to get there, right? And it takes a lot of unpacking to do this. You're a woman, you're coming through, you're graduating with the fancy degree from the fancy university, and you get questioned, or how'd you get in there, affirmative action or whatever it is, right? And you have these things. How do you, as a woman coming up, Wendy, how do you then keep your daughters or your nieces or whatever from kind of going through that? How do you change it when you're not that person that's in the control of that institution or whatever? Well, in your world, in the things that you do control, you have to create environments that then seed and nurture that stuff, right? So
Correct.
if you don't
Correct.
do it like in your own purview, right, you can't then expect it to then flower and grow to these other things. And so when I'm in those situations where I say, this is what I faced, right? Like on a very, very, very smaller scale. Right or wrong, budget or not budget, staff concerns, whatever be damned, if this is going to reinforce the negative dynamics, or it's not going to, grow us out of the space that we wanted to grow out of, then it's time to, kind of put my foot down. So just back to your question, it's, when you kind of, you're walking this line, but when that line kind of comes face to face with like your values and your integrity and what it is that you believe, it's a growth opportunity for me. It's a really important for me to say, wow, okay, this is what I believe, right? And I've had one of those moments recently where I say, this is why I'm put in this position to do this thing. And if I can't do this thing, then why am I here and it's not someone else here? And so I've had many of those moments, and they're always tough. It's never easy. Sometimes you pay a price, sometimes, it's fine, but it's always a beautiful moment of growth for me, because when I stand on the business and when I, make that choice, I know that it's coming from a deep held, personal value, and it's not me trying to juggle and, be the perfect kind of boss or the perfect kind of leader, but I'm stepping out on something that I truly believe. And I love those moments, as sometimes they can be, even though they can be challenging sometimes.
Mm-hmm. When I was listening to you, a couple of things that really came to mind was, number one, you kind of talked about sometimes we have to take something from the macro to the micro in terms of being able to help those in our own little circles. Instead of worrying about the things that we don't have any control over, which exists a lot, we do have control over things that are within our own little environment, what I call my own little garden, when you just tend to your own little garden. Yes. And when you do that, it does make a difference. The other thing that I was thinking about as you were speaking is that oftentimes the crossroads we have really show us what's inside of us and brings out that strength of what we need, or solidifies what we really believe in, and helps us to stand strong and stand firm with that. So I really thank you for sharing what you were sharing, because I do believe that many of the women that are listening right now have had to navigate similar situations, or maybe in them at this very moment. And sometimes they are in environments where it doesn't necessarily make headlines, or they're not able to really be loud about it, but they need to hear somebody else's voice to say, you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing, or it will be okay, or you will get through this, or this crossroad will not last forever, and it will take you somewhere. So with that in mind,
and thank you for the gardener. Thank you for the gardener analogy. That's much more magnanimous than the God. So a head gardener. I'll use that next time.
No, that's fine. That's just my language. But with you've led organizations with multi-million-dollar budgets, and I know that you've managed board, staff, policy initiatives, and partnerships. Which leadership skills were learned on the job that surprised you, that necessarily did not come from your academic training?
I learned a lot on the job. I'm a strong believer when I'm coaching my college mentees. I'm a strong believer in like getting internships and getting out of the classroom, because almost nothing you learn in a classroom and in a school is going to really be, it's going to be up to you to create the applicable, make it applicable in real life. They don't give you that application. They give you the theory, they give you the research, and you have to make it applicable. So get out and get that real world application. One of the things that I've learned, like in leadership, is different from being like a manager or even a director, is that you have to be able to hold a lot of things at once. It's hard to explain, but when you are, just director of programs, or just director, or, of one thing, you can kind of say, this is my fiefdom, and this is kind of like, our, dogma, and this is what we're going to do. And, yes, my budget, and yes, my stuff. But the wider organization thing, you're at the table with the rest of the folks in the C-suite, and you're advocating for your department, and you're advocating for your stuff. Well, when you're a leader of the whole organization, you have to really be comfortable holding all of that stuff at once. And then even more stuff, like you may come from maybe an organizing background or a social justice or equity background like I have. But once you become a leader of an organization, you kind of become the man, right? And everybody can't have unlimited PTO. Everybody can't have, the list goes on, right? And so all of a sudden now you have to be the one who's like putting the foot down on, the holiday party expenses or kind of whatever it is. And so holding this, like, I am this person who wants everybody to have a good time, and I am this person who wants people to like put their health and everything first, with the bottom line of an organization and the results that your board is looking for. Holding all of those things at once can be a little bit of like cognitive dissonance. Like, who am I? Like, what do I really believe in? What is going on? So you have to get really, really comfortable. It's not enough to just be skilled. I feel like as a manager and a director, I was skilled at like kind of juggling those, like, this is for the job. When you're in that leadership role, it's like you have to believe it. Like, you can't just do it for the work. You have to figure out a way to internalize all that stuff and then come up with like, hey, this is the best, this is a good lining. The other thing I think I've learned being a leader, especially in this role as an executive director, is really building alignment with your board and navigating your board, making sure that you are, really listening strategically and really managing personalities, but also, expectations and results, hearing what's being said, hearing what's not being said, and kind of all of that is something that you can't be taught. You just have to really be committed to listening and learning and doing. It's a lot like collaborative building and coalition building, which I do a lot, but very unique because you're all like, together and there's no escape. When you're a coalition, you can hit the eject button and go back to your organization. Here, you're kind of tied all at the hip. So I think those would be two big ones that I couldn't imagine being in a classroom that would actually teach me those things.
Mm-hmm. I think what you kind of really nailed it down to is that there's the difference between the theory and the practical. So, your
Yes.
honesty is so refreshing because leadership isn't perfection. It's actually practice. I mean, it's something that you have to grow with. So let's talk a little bit about your current role. You've touched on a little bit about what you do, but is there anything that you want to share with us as relates to your leadership specifically with Los Angeles STEM Collective?
Well, just in the STEM Collective, but just in general about leadership, a couple of things, and I've been talking to other folks about this, a couple of things that really, I think I wasn't as prepared for in taking over an organization are two things. And honest, for full transparency, Wendy has been my coach, and she's an awesome coach, and just a shout out for her and her skill set. And two of the areas where we didn't plan on, kind of this taking, a lot of our coaching time, but has kind of taken a lot of our coaching time to my benefit, are really two aspects of it is emotional regulation. And I am a very passionate person. I'm very passionate about my work. And I also have that, you can see my emotions on my face. I'm very that type of person. And one of the things that I realized is how much of leadership is regulating your emotions and managing your energy when you're dealing with staff and the board and partners, because everyone is kind of looking to you, and you can't let whatever you're dealing with personally or whatever challenges speak for an entire organization. So sometimes the most powerful thing that I will focus on in a day or in a week or something is really like controlling the emotions on my face. Like, that's one of the most powerful things. Like, not the collaborations, not the partnerships, not all this stuff,
Yeah.
but really just controlling how I'm giving energy to folks, to make sure I'm, I'm a safe space and I'm being receptive and all that stuff. The other thing is the loneliness that comes from being an executive director. Um, I, you know, I thought, oh, you'll be the big boss now, and you're making all of the decisions, and you won't have to go through like 18 levels of approval to get kind of things done, and it'll be great. Well, yeah, maybe, but there is something about when you go to an office and you go to a job and the camaraderie of your team and you all are building something together, arm in arm. And it's kind of like, you know, you become, comrades with these folks and you become, fighters in this mission that you're trying to accomplish. When you're a leader, though, you can't really do that. You can do it a little bit, but you have to be above folks in a way that might be personally uncomfortable. Um, and it's not even because you may not even want to, but people I think respond better when they see a leader who is not in the fray as much,
You're
right?
not in the weeds, and that's why leaders
You're
oftentimes need coaches, because you need a place to go, a place to a place to talk, to
yes.
work things out so that you can then go back and provide to your team what they need as you being the leader. So with that, I'm going to shift gears and let me just ask you, what are some of your hopes for the future? You're still such a young leader. What are some of the hopes that you have for Jamaica for the future?
Well, for the future, I definitely have a hope for the STEM in Los Angeles. I really want the future for girls and students of color, especially black and brown students in Los Angeles, that it's not just they're participating in STEM, but they're really uh, driving the future of science, engineering, technology, and mathematics in Los Angeles. Climate justice, digital media, AI ethics, biotech, real community centered designing, cultural design. I think because we know that our students and our girls don't lack talent or curiosity, they just lack access. And so when we can move away from just I don't know, quotas or kind of numbers and really start thinking about ownership and really integrating our students in, I think is great. For me personally, I think one of my, biggest and future goals is to really do some of that community building myself. I've worked in a lot of organizations, multiracial organizations throughout Los Angeles, and I've done a lot of great work. And a lot of folks in professional Los Angeles know of me and know of my work, and we partner together. But I think what LA is missing, and what I think a lot of folks my age, millennials, I'm an elder millennial, are missing, are these kind of communities with communities that we can grow together. And coalitions and partnerships that we can build together, and so we can get outside of just the work and the strictly the organizational banner that we're all under, and really come together as people who love this city and who love and want to make the city the best that it can possibly be. So really moving and becoming a leader, not just for an organization, but amongst my community and the people that I respect the most. That's really what I hope for me, and I'm really trying to accomplish in this next iteration of my leadership through real intentional action by trying to do that. So I think that encompasses a lot, but I think I'd summarize it like that.
I mean, and I do believe all of that is achievable in as you continue to progress through the various seasons of your, I was going to say life, but leadership roles. And so, since we are celebrating Women's History Month, how do you hope that today's women leaders are remembered when future generations look back on us?
I just hope they're remembered, Wendy. I really do. So many times, we look at history through the lens of the folks who get the top billing, and
Or the
oftentimes
last
that's
word?
not a woman.
Yeah.
um yeah, the last word, right? And there's mothers, there's wives, there's partners, colleagues that are just as instrumental, but because of their gender, it's very easy to just downplay their role. And then we are all socialized women, just speaking in general, are socialized to be demure, to not take the front stage, to be the wind beneath the wings. And that is at our detriment in terms of like being remembered. So I really just hope, women are remembered, and women are, men and other women really use this new season in 2026 to start intentionally seeking out the wisdom of women, seeking out the counsel of women. We do it already informally, but just really, being intentional about what we're doing and why. And so that the accomplishment that and the progress that women are already making every day, especially in our work in social welfare, social justice work in Los Angeles, I mean, it's really held on the shoulders of women. And this is not today. This is, back 40, 50 years, really built on the shoulders of generations of women. They're doing it. We can start naming it and giving, women the recognition and the honor that they deserve right now. So it's happening. Like, you can see it everywhere, but we still have that issue with really supporting it, putting it on that pedestal, for a lot of reasons. But let's get intentional about doing it.
I think I just thought, and I just turned my head and saw that I had it right here. It's like, we speak your name. I don't know if you remember this book by Pearl Cleage, and it was based on a special that Oprah Winfrey had done years ago, with the youngins and the elders. But we speak your name, and so I think that's part of what you're saying too. Is like, let's not forget and let's speak their name. So our time is coming to a close, and I just want to pause and congratulate you also being a finalist for the Black Business Association Salute to Black Women for the Excellence in Service Award. So I speak your name, Miss Jamecca. And before we close, do you have any closing comments, remarks? What's a last thought that you'd like to leave those that are watching today and just share with them from your heart?
Well, I think my last words would be, let us all be a little bit more like Coach Wendy. You walk the walk. You really do, in terms of a purpose-driven life, and as well as really appreciating women, not just because they're women, but for the unique and the uniqueness, skills, expertise, and just, point of view that we bring. Let's do more of that. Let's embrace each other. Let's support each other. Let's keep each other lifted up. And I think, the star is the world is our oyster if we can do that. I really appreciate all that you do and all of the attempts that you make to do this, not just for me, but for all of the amazing people that you work with and that you coach. And I just encourage us all to you do it so effortlessly. Just do more of it, just like you. So thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you for the lives that you continue to touch. And thank you. I'm actually humbled and honored that you would say that. And I'll just end with this, that, Women's History Month reminds us that leadership doesn't always come with applause, but it always comes with impact. And Jamecca, you're making an impact. And so if anybody who's watching today, if you're at a crossroad, know this: you're not behind, you're not unqualified, and you're not alone. There's always somebody out there that is willing to help you, that's willing to reach back and pull you forward, to uplift you. And just like Jamecca just shared with us, if more of us are kind, if more of us are willing to take time to help our fellow sister out there, we would get a lot further along on this journey and being able to make the impact we need to do. So until next time, I am Coach Wendy, your purpose partner, encouraging you to stay rooted, stand unshakable, and lead with strategic grace. And if you haven't done so, please go over to my website, wendygladney.com, and subscribe, and you'll get free downloads. You'll also see my latest program called the Purpose Partner Path. And then also please follow me on all of my socials at Wendy Gladney. So again, thank you, Ms. Jamecca, for being my guest, and happy Women's History Month. God bless.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the purpose, partner.